Welcome to That Will Never Work podcast. You're listening to Women Empowerment Wednesday. I am your host, Coach Latoya. You can reach me on my website at www.coachingbylatoya.com. Also on Facebook, Coaching by Latoya, and on Instagram at Life Coach Latoya. So if anything resonates with you, or you just want to send a message and you want to say, hey, I like the episode, or you have an idea of an episode that you want me to talk about, definitely send me a message. I'd be glad to hear from you. All right, let's get into today's show. Today we have a special guest. She is a wife, mother, entrepreneur. She's also the author of the book Tea Leaves. Her name, Mahzi Kane. Hey Mahzi, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Awesome. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. And
I'm glad to be here. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So before we get into the book, I want to know, what did you want to be when you were little?
When I was little, I wanted to be a teacher. And then somewhere along the line, I found out how much teachers make, and I was like, not that anymore.
I don't blame you at all. But I can see that now. I can see that.
And then I kind of went through from there, forming that I wanted to be a lawyer because of kind of my ability to see both sides of things and to be persistent with my argument. And then, through our years at Girls High, by the time I left there, I wanted to be in fashion. Yeah, but I ended up in advertising and marketing.
So how did that transition from fashion to advertising? What took place?
Well, I decided in true entitled brat fashion that in the birth stores office at Philadelphia Textiles and Science to storm out once I realized that I would have to foot the bill for my education via financial aid and loans, because I just couldn't believe that my parents didn't have a nest egg, me not being aware of a two-parent household with two other children, cashless school tuition that we had went to, all these things that cost. In my mind, I thought that because I was getting A's and B's and I went to Philadelphia High School for Girls, that entitled me to this grand paid-for education. So when I saw that wasn't the case, I got up and I left. And then from there, I floundered I went to Philadelphia College of Pharmacy for like 2 months, and after that, I decided I was going to be an entrepreneur. Then I tried that for a couple of years and just kind of did more retail jobs. Then I got into advertising just kind of through it started out as a publishing coordinator job, and then that translated into advertising coordination, marketing coordination. That's where I got the opportunity to actually use some of my writing, because I started writing copy because I worked for a legal publication company at the time. Mm-hmm. And the height of the recession. At that time, I was laid off, and then that kind of presented yourself with okay, what do I do now? I have a severance package. I haven't really been happy in any of these different fields that I've tried. I've had like a little bit of happiness. I've always been successful, but I've never really had that connection. Now, in the back of all of this, I still was writing, because I've been writing since I was 8, but I always tried to keep my writing separate for some reason, which I just kind of came to grips with in the last I would say 5 or 10 years, just through self-growth and clarity. But back then, I was trying so hard to keep my writing separate from how I made my money. And so once I got laid off from the advertising position with the legal publication company, I was like, okay, this is the time to go after your dreams and do whatever it is you feel like you want to do, regardless to who might be telling you not to do it. Because at this time, I was older. I already had one child. Me and his father were together at the time. He was supportive, but to a point as far as me, going back to school, because I was like, okay, at this time I had credits towards a degree, but I didn't actually have a degree. So I decided to go back to school. I went to community college. I was going to do business management because, like I said, at this point in my mind, I'm still keeping my mind separate, and I still had an entrepreneurial spirit about me. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to get a degree in business management. I can get a job as well as manage whatever businesses that I end up creating. Mm-hmm. So I did that, took my first marketing class. I was like, oh, that's it. That's what I want to do. I want to be in marketing. I want to be able to craft the stories that help sell products. And most importantly, I want to be in those rooms at that table having the conversations about how Black people are portrayed in advertising and the messages that are used to speak to them. So from there, I changed my major. I graduated. I transferred from CCP to Pierce. I ended up graduating from Pierce with a BA in Business Administration with a concentration, a BS in Business Administration with a concentration in marketing. So then after that, I started kind of trying to market. And then I found out through trial and tribulation that it was very hard at my age to get the type of marketing position that I wanted without really having to start low on the, low at the bottom. And I wasn't necessarily trying to do that. So I was trying to use transferable skills, kind of get into a position and then move over into marketing. I tried that for a while. It became very hard. So then I got pregnant with my second son. While I was at that point, when I tell you I tried everything, I tried everything. By this point, I was back in school, going to the Fashion Institute, studying fashion marketing again, because I'm like, okay, let's try this dream of fashion again, of marketing, and then I could put the two together and do fashion marketing. So I was going to Art Institute, liking it. I get pregnant. They don't offer nighttime classes, so now what do I do? I found out about a university called Full Sail University, which specializes in creative degrees. And at this thing, it was this big thing called internet marketing. That's decent, a way to use technology and what I already was trying to do, which is craft, branding and marketing messages together. So while I was pregnant, I went to school online and I obtained my master's degree in internet marketing. Got the degree, still was not happy, still felt unfulfilled, still floundered from job to job that I swore on paper that I would love. And then once I got into the position, I was miserable. And then finally one day, I was like, you're still not writing. Why aren't you writing? Right. When anybody asks you what you do, you tell them you're everything. I'm a marketer, I'm an advertiser, I'm an entrepreneur, but you never say you're a writer. Why? Why is that? And once I really had that conversation with myself and got past the fear of putting it out there and then being held accountable for taking action, not really caring about what people would say about the things in the book and being judged, because I'm a very judgmental person, so you have to get in a space to be able to get back what you give out, even in the vein of, not caring about what people say. I also have to remember that I have a brand. And so when you put out a book and people want to get into knowing you and know your life, you have to be prepared. Yes. You know what I mean? So I had to kind of step into that power and be okay with being vulnerable. You know what I mean? It's power in being vulnerable. And that comes in. That's where the I don't care comes in. Like, regardless to what somebody may say or somebody don't think, I'm okay with that vulnerability. I'm okay with having to step in that space and whatever comes from me putting out this book, being able to deal with it. And once I had that conversation with myself, I published my first book, Tea Leaves, in April of 2018. And it was the most surreal thing in the world, because that book was literally 17 years in the making. Wow. Because while I was going through all of that stuff of jumping from this career and that job and this degree and that degree, I was still working on the book at night in between, but real life would happen. So when real life happened and you kind of have to decide what's going to go on the back burner, I always chose the book to go on the back burner, which I should have not done, of course, in retrospect. But then I was trying to be responsible responsible. This is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to get a degree. You know,
Right.
Writing is a hobby. It's something that you do, later after you get your money. So I had to get over all of these self-imposed and societal, judgments and standards of what your life and what my success was supposed to look like before I could really step into being a writer.
That was a lot. That's
my life. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
But you hit so many things. You said you hit.
So
I'm gonna try to get rid of start, because here's the thing. Just like everyone tells us, you got to go to school, you got to get this degree, you got to do this, you got to do that. But you kept so many things separate. But ultimately, your passion was still writing. So, but wait a minute. Just for those who didn't know, I met Mahzi at Philadelphia High School for Girls. And when you said... Yes, Philly native. That's what I'm talking about. When you said you wanted to be a teacher, in my mind, I see you as an English teacher all day. All day.
Yeah, because English was my favorite subject. I love English all day. All day. Words, expressions.
Yes. We had English class together. You were always on it. You was always about it. And of course, being an author and this book, honey. First off, let's get into this book. So, and we're going to touch some of these other things that you talked about too, but the book is synonymous with a lot of your life also.
Yes.
First of all, growing up in the 90s, that was like the era, okay? The era. You see some of the kids now trying to redo what took place in the 90s because they knew that was the era.
They realized that that's what it was.
Yes. And for any Philly natives, this book is also a good read, because when you talk about King of Prussia Mall, I'm imagining the mall as I'm reading the book, like, yes. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I remember that. Fairmount Park, okay, yes. Northeast, I live in, I got people there and everything like this. Northeast, I'm sitting here like, this is awesome. But before that, you have a character named Toya. I'm like, well, let's see what Toya is about. And I'm like, come on, Toya, come on.
Almost every reader whose name is Toya is just like, really? Toya has to act like that? Yes. I'm so sorry.
Listen, I was like, okay.
They just take on their personality of their own, and the name just kind of comes to me like, her name needs to be Toya. And sometimes it's like I'll have a name, but as the character develops, I'm like, okay, that name doesn't fit anymore, and then it has to be something else. Or with a lot of characters, the thing about tea leaves is that it's like, of course, based on true life, but it's not like a tell-all. And everybody thinks like each character is based on a person I know, but each character is actually a characteristic of mine that then I just extrapolated out into a bigger personality and a bigger person. And in some instances, I just exaggerated it. Like Clark is that bitch side of me on steroids.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's about just taking who I am and using my imagination and creativity to make it real and relatable to other people and other women that we actually interact with, because everybody know a Clark.
Yes,
or some people are a Clark.
Because I was going to ask you, like, where did these characters come from? Because each of the characters, somebody knows some of everybody. You know what I mean? You can see, as you're reading the book, you be like, oh, this is so-and-so. Oh, that's so-and-so.
This remind me of such and such.
Yes. And what I do also enjoy is the camaraderie around those who really love each other. You see it. You see, and you can see the maturity of the main character, who's the mother, keeping everybody together. Because it's always a mother of a group.
Iris, exactly.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then you always have a snake in a group.
Always.
Always.
Because you always have to have that balance. It seems like in every relationship, because friendships are relationships, sometimes it seems to be that person who takes more than they give, or who has to get everybody, you know what I mean, kind of gives that person that exception of that's just how she
yes.
is, or that's
and that
just how
happens
he
all
is.
through the book.
And
yes.
And bad behavior is just kind of, you know what I mean, pushed to the side or it's overlooked just because that's who this person is. But that's one of the elements that I wanted to bring forth in Tea Leaves is just, you know what I mean, at what point is too much too much? What point is it not just to fall on the onus of me to accept you for who you are, but for you to maybe do some growth and see that who you're being is not cool. Like, don't nobody always want to have to overlook you being an asshole or you being a jerk. That's not cool, and that can really damage relationships, and it can scar women for next relationships or friendships that they could form with women, because I know you've heard it a lot. I don't mess with girls like that. I don't mess with girls like that. You know what I mean? So it's not what you do can have an effect on a real good woman relationship that a sister could have down the line.
Yes. Oh, it brings all of this up. And I think it's also a great read for those who are, of course, at any age, because, of course, in your younger years, you can see this, but you also see the growth of some of the characters. You also see where one particular character ain't grow at all. And right? And then you also have maybe that older generation, such as the grandmothers, trying to school these younger women, you know, trying to teach them. But you gotta listen. That's the thing.
You have to.
You have to, because they've been here. They've seen it. You know what I mean?
It's there.
So, respect.
It's like we have so many opportunities sometimes to get what we're looking for, and that's where the title of Tea Leaves came from. It was originally called Testimony because each kind of character is giving their testimony about as they're going through what they're going through. But then I stumbled upon the phrase reading tea leaves, and reading tea leaves is kind of like an ancient fortune-telling science where you sit with a reader and they put leaves in a cup and pour water in, and they pour the leaves out and spread them out, and then whatever particular shape that the dried tea leaves make, then the reader then kind of reads your fortune. And so I was like, that fits so much because, number one, you know, we have the whole thing of spilling the tea, as well as each one of those characters was kind of looking for a guarantee. You know what I mean? Iris with her marriage, Rashida with her, you know what I mean, her baby situation, Toya with just in general with wanting to find a man, I mean, Toya, you know what I mean, with her situation with her man. So everybody was kind of looking for that thing that would say, hey, what you're doing is the right thing. This is the way to go. It doesn't matter what your friends say or what your mom say or what your cousins say, that you're doing the right thing because of this. And at the end of the day, they each kind of already had that through their sisterhood, through their, you know what I mean, their grandmom or their family. And, you know what I mean? And in some instances, just through common sense, not wanting to see the truth. You know what I mean? At sometimes we're our own worst enemy because it's clear as day what needs to be done or what doesn't need to be done, but we just don't want to get that lesson yet. And life is going to keep on showing it to you. And you see some of the characters have to deal with, you know what I mean, that lesson coming back into your face. And, you know what I mean, certain characters like Sage having real life situations that really made her have to sit back and have a bow herself meeting like, whoa, what am I doing?
Yes. Now, you take people on a mental roller coaster. I think it's beautiful. I'm sitting reading and I'm like, oh my goodness, the day is almost gone and I am still like... So I didn't think of none of my issues. That was perfect. Yes. So going to you, how did you get this book published?
I am a self-publisher. I own my own business, my own self-publishing company. It's called Mahzi Kane Books, LLC. As a writer, once you write your book, and if you decide that you want to publish, the main question that you kind of have to ask yourself is, do I want to take the traditional route and go through a publisher, or do I want to self-publish? Now, going through a traditional publisher, that means that you're going to have to have a manuscript. You have to go through, basically, it's applying for a job. You're sending this out and asking people, hey, is my book what you want? Does it meet what you're looking for? And then you publish it. You take on all the responsibility, all of the risk. And then if you decide to do it, then you'll pay me a royalty. Self-publishing, you take on all of the risks, all of the costs, get all of the money, and keep all of the control. That's me. That's what I wanted. I was always big on entrepreneurship and wanting control and having something that I could pass down to my children, and not necessarily a business per se, but a mindset and an ideal, and the whole having seen my mom build her business and work and publish books and things like that. So for me, self-publishing was always a way, or at least maybe an independent press or something where I was, in control and didn't feel like I had to beg somebody to publish my story. And I didn't want to have to conform to the way that Caucasian people want to hear us tell our stories. I wanted to keep our ebonics. I wanted to keep our slang language, the way that you hear us speak, or when you go to certain parts of our neighborhoods or to certain family gatherings, the way you hear us talk. I wanted that to come across the way that girlfriends talk candidly with one another. I wanted that to be captured. I wanted our Black experience, our Black womanhood experience to be authentic. And I was like, I'm not letting nobody whitewash that. So I formed my own LLC, got my EIN number, and then I published through, at the time it was called Create Space, but now it has been taken over by Amazon KDP. And basically you just have to learn the platform, upload your file, and then publish your book. And you can do it electronically as well as order print copies to then sell them hand to hand if you would like, as I do, as well as try to get them into different bookstores. So, but the thing is that if you are going as a self-publisher, I'm a business, I'm a brand. So it's about wearing many hats. It's not just writing the book. If all you just want to do is write, then trying to go the traditional way, traditional publisher route is better for writers that way. For me, I, like I said, needed this to kind of serve more than one purpose, and plus I have a lot of books that I plan on writing, and so like I said, I'm thinking of building an enterprise.
That is awesome. I love it. Oh my goodness. I even got some more questions too, but I don't want to hold up too much of your time. Oh my goodness. One other question too about writing. So I know of a few people, and myself included, because I am thinking of writing a self-help book. The question is, if I am concerned about, I guess, copyright infringement, my intellectual property, like, how can I protect myself going through this process if I chose to go the traditional route?
Unfortunately, you really can't go on the traditional route. I mean, you can if you really get deep into the contract and try to change different lingo, but that's kind of the trade-off of the traditional publisher route, is that you give up your ownership, and they take the ownership because they are paying for everything. They are doing everything. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like, your name is still on the book, but when it comes down to the ISBN, it's king. Whoever owns the ISBN owns that written work.
Then you just
so
put
even
it in,
if
I'm sorry, you just put it in full perspective for me. I'm sorry, that was it. Yep. So like, even if when you like go to places like Amazon, they'll say, "Oh, we'll do the publishing for you, and you get a free ISBN." You don't ever want anybody's free ISBN number, because that means they own your shit.
Pay for it. Go to Bowder, BROWER. I believe they're the only official place to buy ISBN numbers. You can get 10 for $295, one for $125. You're going to choose to publish a book and you want to own it, you need to own your ISBN number.
That was some knowledge right there. That was a huge nugget. I appreciate it.
Yes. And also, I would say, do not be afraid to pay for editing. As you already said, I love English. I've been into English since high school, but I pay an editor. You know what I mean? It's nothing. It's an invaluable tool and resource. And I'm not talking about pay your friend.
Right.
You know what I mean? And your cousin and your baby father, aunt, and all that. No, find a book publisher editor, preferably one that has worked in your genre, and you kind of get 3 to 5 quotes, do your research to see what the market will bear, and pay that money to get editing done professionally.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Oh, so for any of you who were thinking about writing and publishing, she done explained so much right there. Oh, you done gave me some info too.
Yes.
And this is not going to be the last time we talk to you. We're going to have to talk to you again because you talking about another book called Selfish that's coming.
That's what I was about to say. I have to come back. Yes, I'm working on, I have another book that's already out. It's an ebook. It's just it's only available on Kindle. It's called Thoughts of a Queen. It's a poetry book. One of the first, before I started writing books, I wrote poetry. So these just kind of like poems from 20 years ago that I kind of found that I thought I had got rid of. And once they came back to me, I just took that as a sign to publish them. So that's an ebook that's available on Kindle. I think it's like $2.99, but I'm working on Selfish, which is another fiction novel. It is about a cheating woman. Yes,
okay.
It explores the ideal of, or I would say, shines a light of the idea of a woman doesn't always cheat just because she's broken or scarred or damaged or as a retaliation for a man. This particular woman kind of plays the game the way that a man does, as well as just appreciates a variety of different men and penises. So it kind of just explores her thoughts and we're just showing her different ways that selfish behavior can manifest itself. And then I'm working on a sequel to Tea Leaves, which is called New Tricks.
Oh, okay, yeah. You gonna be a regular here. That's for sure.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes, I'll be back. I'll be back.
And so for some homework for our listeners, for new writers, we've already learned if you want, whoever owns the ISBN is king. Is there anything else that you want to let the new writers know?
Two things. I would say, if you don't already have a writing schedule, get one. Just getting into the habit of making your writing important enough to devote time to it every day is very important, and it'll just help you going forward. Even if it starts out as something as small as 15 or 20 minutes, even if in that time all you do is write one sentence and then you erase half of it. It's about the intention and the commitment to yourself as a writer. The other thing I would say is to make sure you remember that if you are writing to be published, whether it's a blog or a book, an ebook, remember that it's a business, and take it serious. Have a strategy, plan. Whatever you don't know, get help for it, and don't be afraid to pay for it. Sometimes free shit is free for a reason. The free 99 only gets you but so far as writing is, something that you really want to do. So for homework, like I said, I would say find a way that if you don't have time, make time. Try different schedules. I've tried so many things, from setting particular writing days to block time to certain hours, and be flexible with yourself. But put yourself in a position to write every day. And even if it's not to publish, and especially in this day and time where so much change and it can feel so heavy, give your space to release it. You know what I mean? Get that out, get it on paper, and sometimes even goals for when this is over. Put what you want to see in the new normal happen. Start getting that out. Give yourself the time and the space and the permission to write.
That's key right there. Give yourself permission to write and go for it.
Yes, give yourself permission, because especially as women, mothers, wives, sometimes the thing that we really need to keep ourselves grounded and balanced, we don't allow ourselves to do that because of what I'm supposed to do or what it might look like. Mm-hmm. So give yourself permission to write if that's what makes you feel better, and if that's just something that you've been wanting to do or feel like you could be good at, or even that it'll serve a need and help somebody else. Right. Tell your story.
Yes. What's your mantra? What keeps you going?
I have several. It depends on how I'm doing. It depends on where I'm at with it. Most of the time, it's I always rock with stand out. I'm not here to be mediocre.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Be okay with, because it's about being okay with being different, being okay with getting attention, being okay with being judged. My other mantra is money over bullshit. I'm not one of them people that be like, oh, money is the root of all evil. Nope. I like money. Money is a tool. Money helps me to get certain things and to live a certain lifestyle, to acquire a certain amount of freedom. So at the end of the day, always about my money over the bullshit, because if I'm worrying about the bullshit, that means that I'm not focused on my money, which means that I'm not thinking about my business, I'm not thinking about me, I'm not thinking about my family, I'm not thinking about my legacy, my community, my people, my nation. So always about money over bullshit.
Wow, and on that one, how can people reach you? Because, man,
I am on Instagram and Facebook, Mahzi Kane Books. And you can also check me out on my website, www.mahzikanebooks.com. I have a blog that you can check out called Random Musings, as well as you can look at my books. Some other offerings I have coming up right now on the site is under construction. Shout out to my boy Quentin Parker of Foxfire, who is currently redoing the user interface for me. But yes, you can definitely find me on Facebook and Instagram.
Awesome. This was amazing. I'm so glad you came and blessed us. And
thank you so much for having me.
And we're going to see you again as soon as your next project start coming out.
Most definitely. And it's, this was one of my goals for this year, was that I was going to start partnering more with other Black women, and look what's happening. Even in the wake of, it might not be able to be an event, but I'm still finding a way to come together with other people to talk about the great things that we as women can accomplish.
All day. This is beautiful.
All day.